online, it seems like the Bitcoin maxis are very anti-core 30 and they're very pro-knots. So like, what is it that they're not understanding that you do understand? Like, why do they not share a perspective more like yours?
Well, first of all, I would say it's a tiny contingent, very loud, but tiny contingent. There's been a lot of tomfoolery going on. Like I have reasons to believe that both discourse on social media and actual metrics of nodes and stuff are being manipulated. I've run into quite a few AI bots in my replies that have been saying things that then I've been able to essentially perform a Turing test on to show like this is not a human. So I'm generally skeptical of a lot of people who are claiming certain sizes of contingents here. Look, there are humans who believe this. I would put it on the order of maybe 1,000 or a few thousand people who are really into that camp. A lot of that is from looking at the early metrics. So if you look at the early node metrics from May, June-ish, you can see that there's like a drop in the number of Bitcoin Core nodes and an increase in the number of NOTS nodes. And I think that feels like it's probably legitimate. Like that's probably like the actual protest vote per se. But then a lot of the continuation of increase of NOTS nodes counts that have happened since then, I think is a lot more suspect. And one of the main reasons that I say that is because there's been a massive divergence between NOTS nodes running over IPv4 and IPv6 versus NOTS nodes running over Tor. And there's a few things that you could take away from that. One of those, which I'm sure like the NOTS proponents would say, well, these are all the node in a box people that are running their start nines and their umbrals and whatever. And those operate over Tor by default to get around the network address traversal issues that happen when you're running a node at home by a router. And so, that may be true to some extent. But I would also argue that then a lot of those people are probably not particularly economically relevant if we're talking about like a contentious fork situation, and that what really matters more are a lot of the enterprises, the businesses that have massive volume of Bitcoin coming in and out. Like they're going to have a much larger effect if there's any sort of consensus issue at play. And another is just that Tor is incredibly cheap to manipulate. Like you can't get IPv4 addresses for free. You get one assigned to you if you have like a residential ISP. If you're doing stuff in the cloud, you have to pay for every IP that you're getting, but you don't have to pay for Tor addresses. It's just software. You spin it up and go. So I'm generally skeptical about the size. There's no doubt that there's a lot of controversy and that this has been dominating discourse, at least on X, for 4 or 5 months now. But in general, what I expect is going to happen is that Bitcoin Core version 30 is going to come out sometime next month. The sky is not going to fall. Bitcoin will continue working. And then the only question will become, do all of the people who said that this was going to kill Bitcoin or have some disastrous consequence, do they cede to the fact that they were incorrect in their assertions and move on to something else? Or do they just push the goalposts out further and keep trying to argue about this stuff, even though their actions are not having any real consequential effect on the network itself?